Look outside your window. Chances are your home sits on a quiet street, securely anchored to a flat piece of land, connected to a power grid, running water, and emergency services just a 911 call away. It is safe. It is predictable. But what if your front porch ended in a 1,000-foot vertical drop? What if your basement was an active volcano? What if the closest grocery store was a treacherous 3-day climb up a sheer rock face? Around the globe, there are houses so perilous, so geographically illogical, that it seems entirely impossible for anyone to actually live in them. These aren't just architectural marvels. They are testaments to human stubbornness, survival, and a deep-seated desire to conquer the absolute edges of the earth. Today, we are leaving the comfort of the suburbs behind. We're going to explore the most extreme, dangerous, and isolated homes ever built by mankind. From a monk who lives completely alone on top of a stone needle in the clouds, to an entire town buried deep underground to escape a deadly, boiling sun. Buckle up, because by the end of this video, you will completely redefine what you consider a home. Imagine waking up, pouring yourself a cup of coffee, and stepping out your front door, only to be greeted by a 130-foot drop on all sides. That's exactly the morning routine at our first impossible home, the Kotsky Pillar in the country of Georgia. Towering 130 feet into the air, roughly the height of a 13-story building, this natural limestone monolith is capped by a tiny, custom-built hermitage. For centuries, this pillar sat empty, an unsolved mystery of the ancient world. Locals knew there were ruins on top, but no one knew how to get up there. It wasn't until 1944 that a group of mountaineers finally scaled the sheer rock face and discovered the bones of an ancient monk who had lived and died in total isolation. But the story doesn't end in the past. In 1993, a monk named Maxim Kavtaradze decided to move in. Seeking ultimate isolation to connect with God, Maxim spent years hauling building materials up a flimsy, terrifyingly steep iron ladder piece by piece to rebuild the chapel and construct a tiny home. He lived up there for over 2 decades. His only connection to the ground was that 131-foot rusty ladder, a climb that takes 20 agonizing minutes of pure focus. One slip and it's over. Food and supplies are winched up to him using a pulley system by a few supporters on the ground. Why live here? For Maxim, the extreme physical danger was the price for ultimate spiritual peace. It is a home built not for comfort, but for the soul. If the Kotsky Pillar made your palms sweat, wait until you see this. Deep in the Shaanxi province of China, suspended 246 feet above the ground on the side of Mount Hengshan, is the Hanging Temple. From a distance, it looks like a stiff breeze could send the entire complex crashing into the gorge below. Built over 1,500 years ago, this architectural miracle defies every law of modern engineering. The complex consists of 40 rooms linked by a maze of dizzying corridors, bridges, and boardwalks. But here's the most terrifying part. It appears to be supported only by a handful of impossibly thin wooden stilts jammed into the rock. But appearances are deceiving. The ancient builders were absolute geniuses. Those thin wooden pillars aren't actually holding the weight of the buildings. The real secret lies inside the cliff itself. The builders chiseled deep horizontal holes into the solid rock and hammered massive crossbeams inside. The rock naturally clamps down on the wood, meaning the mountain itself is carrying the weight of the temple. They built it here for 2 reasons. First, to protect it from the terrible floods that used to ravage the valley below. Second, the overhang of the mountain acts like an umbrella, shielding the wooden homes from rain, snow, and relentless sun. Even today, monks and caretakers live in these rooms. When you walk across the wooden floorboards, they creak under your weight, echoing down the canyon. It's a home that demands absolute faith in ancient engineering every single time you take a step. Let's leave the dizzying heights and head somewhere entirely different. A place where the danger doesn't come from gravity, but from the sky itself. Welcome to the outback of South Australia, to a town called Coober Pedy. If you were to drive through Coober Pedy during the summer, you might think it's a ghost town. The surface temperature here can reach a mind-melting 122 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. It's so hot that birds have been known to literally drop dead from the sky. It is a hostile, sun-scorched wasteland where human life shouldn't exist. But Coober Pedy isn't empty. It's home to around 2,500 people. You just can't see them because they live completely underground. Back in the early 1900s, miners flocked here to dig for opals, but the heat was lethal. So instead of building houses on the surface, They realize that just a few feet below the earth, the temperature stays at a perfect constant 75 degrees year-round. No air conditioning required. Today, these dugouts are incredible. We aren't talking about cramped, dirty caves. These are sprawling luxury homes carved into the sandstone. They have modern kitchens, walk-in closets, high-speed internet, and some even have underground swimming pools. The town has underground hotels, underground bookstores, and even underground churches. And the best part about home expansion in Kuberpeti, if you want a new guest bedroom, you don't call a contractor, you just rent a tunneling machine and carve one out yourself. In fact, a few years ago, one resident was digging out a new bathroom and accidentally struck a vein of opals worth over $1 million. Talk about home equity. Have you ever had a day where you just wanted to get away from everyone, to turn off your phone, lock the door, and disappear? Well, whoever built our next house took that idea to the extreme. This is the island of Elita I, located off the southern coast of Iceland. And sitting right in the middle of this sloped, grassy rock is exactly one building. It's been dubbed the loneliest house in the world. For years, the internet was obsessed with this place. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said it was a secret bunker built by an eccentric billionaire in case of a zombie apocalypse. Others claimed the Icelandic government gave the island to their most famous pop star, Björk. The truth? It's a hunting lodge built in the 1950s by the Elliday Hunting Association. Getting to this house is a nightmare. You have to take a boat through the choppy, freezing Atlantic, jump onto a slippery, jagged rock face while the waves crash around you, and use a fixed rope to pull yourself up the cliff. Once you get to the house, there is no electricity, there is no indoor plumbing, there is no internet. To get fresh water, the house relies on a rainwater collection system. It is just you, the howling wind, and thousands of puffins. While no one lives here full-time year-round, members of the Hunting Association use it as a retreat. It is the ultimate monument to introversion, a home where your nearest neighbor is a fish dot. Most people check the crime rate or the school district when looking for a new home. The residents of Aogashima, Japan, have a different concern. They live inside an active volcano, literally. Aogashima is a tiny island in the Philippine Sea, about 220 miles south of Tokyo. When you look at it from above, it's one of the most surreal landscapes on Earth. It's a caldera, a massive volcanic crater. But inside that crater is another smaller volcano. And right there, nestled in the green valley between the outer crater wall and the inner magma dome, is a village of about 160 people. This isn't a dormant volcano. It is classified as Class C active by the Japanese Meteorological Agency. The last time it erupted in the 1780s, it killed nearly half the island's population and forced the survivors to flee. For 50 years, the island was a completely abandoned wasteland, but eventually, people came back. Why? Because the volcanic soil is incredibly fertile, and the geothermal energy provides endless hot water. Today, the residents have adapted to their explosive basement. They actually harness the volcano's heat, using natural steam vents in the ground to power public saunas and even to cook their food. You can bring eggs and sweet potatoes to the vents, drop them in a pot, and let the volcano make your lunch. Living in Aogashima requires accepting that the ground beneath your feet could tear itself apart at any moment. It is a beautiful, terrifying paradise, where life is lived on the volcano's terms. Sometimes, extreme homes aren't built in isolated deserts or on 1,000-foot cliffs. Sometimes they are built right in the middle of a raging river. In Serbia, perched precariously on a rock in the middle of the Drina River, sits a tiny wooden house that has become a symbol of pure, stubborn human resilience. The story started in 1968 when a group of young friends who were swimming in the river needed a place to rest. They started bringing over wooden boards to the rock to make a sunbathing platform. Soon, a platform became a roof, and a roof became a full cabin. But the Drina River is wild and unpredictable. Every few years, heavy rains and melting snow turn the river into a violent, raging torrent. Over the last 50 years, the house has been completely annihilated by massive floods, smashed to pieces and washed away into the current, not once, not twice, but 7 times. Most people would take the hint and move, but not the builders. Every single time the river destroys it, the locals wait for the water to drop, gather new materials, and rebuild it exactly where it was. It has become a game of tug-of-war between man and nature. Today, it stands stronger than ever, a beautiful, quirky little home that absolutely refuses to be defeated by the earth. Let's scale things up. What's more extreme than building one house on a cliff, building an entire network of massive stone mansions on top of colossal, gravity-defying rock pillars? Welcome to Meteora, Greece. The name translates literally to suspended in the air. And when you look at these structures, you realize why, rising hundreds of feet straight up from the valley floor, these smooth sandstone pillars look impossible to climb. But in the 14th century, monks seeking refuge from political turmoil and invading armies decided this was the perfect place to build their homes. But how do you build a massive stone complex on a rock you can't even walk up? The answer, with sheer agonizing patience. Monks originally free-climbed the rock faces using nothing but pegs jammed into cracks. Then they lowered ropes. Every single piece of stone, wood, and roofing tile was hauled up by hand using a pulley system. For centuries, the only way a human could access these homes was to sit in a literal rope net, dangling hundreds of feet in the air, while monks at the top pulled you up with a manual winch. Legend has it that when anxious visitors asked the monks how often they replaced the ropes, the monks would calmly reply, "Only when the Lord lets them break." Today, stairs have been carved into the rock for tourists, but these monasteries remain one of the most staggering architectural achievements in human history. Homes built halfway to heaven, completely detached from the chaos of the world below. For our final extreme home, we're heading to the top of the world. Welcome to Svalbard, a Norwegian archipelago located deep inside the Arctic Circle. Living in the town of Longyearbyen means living in a place of absolutes. For 4 months of the year, the sun never sets. For another 4 months, it is plunged into total 24/7 pitch-black darkness. It is so cold here that houses cannot be built directly on the ground. The heat from the homes would melt the permafrost, causing the houses to sink and collapse. So, every home is elevated on deep wooden stilts. But the cold isn't the most extreme part. Svalbard is home to roughly 3,000 polar bears, which actually outnumber the humans. Leaving your house without a rifle is not just highly discouraged, it's functionally illegal outside the town limits. And due to the extreme permafrost, bodies do not decompose here. Because of this, it is actually illegal to die in Longyearbyen. If you fall terminally ill, the government flies you to the mainland of Norway. It is a home on the absolute fringe of habitability, where nature enforces the laws and humans are merely temporary guests. From the boiling underground deserts of Australia to the freezing, bear-infested islands of the Arctic. From active volcanic craters in Japan to wooden temples clamped onto the sides of Chinese cliffs. These places prove one undeniable fact. Humans are not content with just surviving where it's easy. We have a fundamental, almost crazy drive to look at the most dangerous, hostile, and impossible environments on Earth and say, "I think I'll put my bed right there." These aren't just extreme houses. They are monuments to human resilience, engineering, and our relentless desire to conquer the impossible. Which of these impossible homes would you dare to live in for a week? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey to the edge of the world, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.